evening, everybody. Welcome to Monday Night March. Yes, let's do that clapping again. We all got. There's even a dog in the front row who I think clapped, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you. We accept canine claps. Okay, anyway, welcome to Monday Night Marsh. Marsh has wonderful shows all the time, but I have to say I'm prejudiced. Monday Night Marsh is my favorite night of the week because it changes every week. You have seasoned performers reworking material. You have new performers trying out things for the first time. It's really exciting. So tonight's performers will be Katrine DeBon, Ananda Bena-Weber, and Jen Bosworth Ramirez. Yeah, and let me just thank you all for coming out. And thank you to all the folks at home on Zoom. We're grateful. That said, theater, at least for me, it just isn't theater without live people sitting there, breathing. So give yourselves a round of applause. All right, let me just give you a little quick pre-show business here. If anybody's on Instagram and you want to follow Monday Night Marsh, we are at Monday Night Marsh. But do that later because I'd like to ask you to shut your cell phones off. At the very least, please silence them. It's always a drag when people accidentally leave their phones on and then it goes off in the middle of performance. And anyway, you don't want that to be you. We don't want that to be you. All right. Also, although my mask is off, I will put it on the minute I get off stage, and I'm going to ask you all to leave them on during the show. Anyway, would be much appreciated. Let's see. Speaking of safety, we have two emergency exits, the one behind me, if I knew my directions, to the left, and the door you came in. And just so you know, free of charge, comes with your ticket. All right, who said there's no frills today? And speaking of frills, we started this during Monday Night Marsh during the pandemic when we were only on Zoom, which is a Q&A with the audience, between the audience and the performers after the show. So we've continued it. It's a really nice thing that we do. So as you watch, keep questions in mind that you might have for the performers, or anything about what inspired them to do this, how did they get ready for it, anything like that. Usually, like I said, 15, 20 minutes. Okay. Big news. If any of you here in the physical audience or you in the Zoom audience think, I could try my hand at a Monday Night Marsh, you're in luck. We are accepting submissions for our July through December period up until June 23rd. So you can just go to the Marsh website, the Monday Night Marsh page, and instructions for how to submit are there. Okay, and let's see. Finally, like I said, we do lots of shows at the Marsh. I'm just going to mention a couple right now, two main stage shows here in the San Francisco Marsh. Comedian Adam Strauss has returned for 4 performances of his autobiographical show about OCD called The Mushroom Cure, which is played here many times, has been well received here and in other parts of the country. 4 times during May and June, and you'll be able to check that out at the Marsh website. He has another show as well, these prolific performers, that he will also be performing during this period called Adam Strauss Is Not Unhappy. We have Dawn Reed continuing it through the end of the end of June, his final extension in Berkeley with his tale about life in Hollywood. Anyway, that and many other shows here at the Marsh, go to the Marsh here, the Marsh here, the Marsh in Berkeley, go to the marsh.org website for all that information. Woo. All right, let's get down to what really matters here. Everybody's phones off?
Yeah.
All right. In that case, we are ready for our first performer, who tonight is Katrine DeBon in Survival Kit Upgrade. From COVID anxiety to brain trauma while quarantined to the many crises that surround us. This piece asks, is the human species really most fitted for survival? Please welcome Katrine DeBon.
Is it safe to come out? The way I understand it, you all have your masks on, right?
Yeah.
You boosted?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Wait. guns? Does anybody have a gun?
No.
Not to that. All this equipment was provided by my workplace. To keep me safe, along with a few vaccine shots. I work in a hospital and I am all fogged up. You know, for me, the COVID years were very unglamorous. I felt cautious, constricted, compromised. No, it's the lint. No worries. No, where was it? Oh, right. It was confined. Until a window opened in my bedroom. Window to the world with a Zoom. Zoom, 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 zoom. So I was dancing on Zoom. And I was improvising. I was lying down flat on a chair. I was looking at the screen on my hands features when the chair tilted and I fell backwards, slamming my head against the wall without being able to break my fall. So it was okay-ish for about 2 weeks. Then was it the head trauma, the vaccine shots, the long COVID, my anxiety, all of the above? Then my nervous system started to attack me. I could have killed myself in the comfort of my own home. I could not sleep for months. I lost 12 pounds. I collected 6 diagnoses in 1 year. I endured 17 very complicated medical tests, and I could not work. And so on my search for recovery, I stumbled upon neuroscience. Neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to form and organize synaptic connections, especially in response to learning or experience or following injury. You know what else I read? That birds can generate new neurons at mating season in order to create new love songs. I wish I could create new neurons. I certainly could use a patch, but the science is inconclusive on this. Yes, us humans, we can create a neural connection where you put your thoughts and intention to create a neural pathway. Then practice makes perfect. What fire together, wire together, creating a whole network. And this is how you can learn the violin if you wanted to. I think about this for a moment. I learned how to speak English. I learned how to try, but I learned to heal my brain if I put my intention to it. Never going to survive this. I'm scared. Have to surrender to the death. I am in survival mode all the time. And your survival brain can kill you. Yeah, let's just think about this for a moment. Okay. What did us humans invented under the influence of the survival brain? Bows and arrows. Okay, we need to eat. Guns. Fair enough. We could be more efficient. More guns. Why? Wait, we also invented castles, moats, catapults. To protect from other human beings. Because? Yeah, because where you put your thoughts and intention, you create a rule. Then practice makes perfect. Like fire together, wire together, until you have a whole network, and now we are virtuoso killers. Cannon and brain takes, oh my. Cannon and brain takes, oh my. Cannon and brain takes, oh my. But is necessity the mother of all invention? Or is it fear? Are we pursuing happiness or safety? I certainly was pursuing safety. Driving into the night, to a friend's house, in long nights, and with good friends. I learned to feel terrified and grateful at the same time. I also learned you cannot make good plans on survival. Is thinking of a race making a good plan for survival? Survival of the fittest. The natural process by which organisms best adjusted to their environment are most successful in surviving and reproducing. But let's face it, when it comes down to survival, we are comparing fully two cockroaches, which we know can survive a nuclear blast. Fossils show they've been around for 300,000 years. So whatever killed the dinosaurs did not face them. They can grow out new limbs. Super useful. They've got two brains. One is in the gut. My gut feeling might be a better tool at this point. I don't have a good feeling about surviving. Let me think positively. Let me train my brain. Let me think. I got it. Okay. Did you know that a team of students from the Netherlands invented a solar-powered car that cleans the carbon from the air as it drives? And it's made out of recycled plastic. Of course. Okay, good. Let me do it. We have invented the lip blower. So surely we ought to be able to recycle stockpiles of weapons besides of creating new wars. Even if we were to generate new neurons as human beings, we still need to decide, what are we going to use them for? A brain on a didn't think about this whole one. There's a coronavirus out of me. No brain there. And yet, it has outsmarted us for years. This time I came up with a new vaccine. It had multiple eyes. No, it has multiple eyes. Yes, it has. To become more contagious and more immunoinvasive. Impressive. Iteration intelligence. Iteration intelligence. The repetition of a process as a mean to obtain successively closer approximation to the solution of a problem. Coronavirus is solution-oriented. We learn from fires and floods. I filled up my tank. I drove here to make up a plastic mess. Okay. Wait. That is the solution. There's a solution to it. No. Then all got no. Parachute? No. Paranoid. Parasite. Yeah. Parasite, okay. Organism that lives in or an organism of another species, its host, and benefits by deriving nutrient at the other's expense. Let me think about this for a moment. No, that's good. No. That the earth is gonna survive. Us? No. I'm gonna panic, it's gonna kill me. Let me train my brain. Let me think positively. Let me breathe. There are countless scientific studies that shows that the brain of meditators is different than my brain. Wisdom showed up on the MRI. Okay, let me breathe. Am I seeing the full picture? Did you can see the ultraviolet markings on their heads? And dogs can sync up their heartbeats to ours to help us prevent. You know, one night when I woke up with a shortness of breath, my heart pounding erratically, and I was debating, should I wake up my friends to go to the ER? Well, their cat lay down sideways across my chest until my symptoms calmed down. Oh, thank you, cat. Thank you, friends. Attuned. Attuned. To bring into accord, harmony, or sympathetic relationship. To adjust as a musical instrument. But we develop heart intelligence and create new love songs. It's gonna require practice and intention. Okay, so there you go.
Great job. So quick question, anybody need a Xanax after Katrina speaks? Speak to me afterwards. Anyway, that was wonderful. Katrina DeBon, everybody. All right, now this is a great thing about Monday Night Marsh. We're going to a totally different place. Second up tonight is Ananda Bena Weber in Fanciful Folks. Based on real stories from real Americans, this piece dances, sings, and clowns the story of who we are as a nation today and reminds us that love is the key to making the whole experiment work. Please welcome Ananda Bena Weber.
How do you pronounce your name in your country? How is it spelled here? Oh, how strange. What does it mean? Oh, how beautiful. I never thought this could be a man's name. Can you write it down for me? In your language, oh beautiful. I love foreign letters. They are like drawings. They are like secret signs from magic places, from different worlds. I don't know what they mean. I hope they mean well. I hope they're not against me. I don't know what they mean. I hope they are friendly. I hope they don't plan to hurt me. How do you say love in your language? Can you write it down for me? Oh, how beautiful. Can you say it one more time? Can I try to? Oh, how do you say thank you?
This song I don't know. This song is not in the show. Interesting song. You know, it's something that's very interesting to me. I'm always surprised. I don't know if you have the same experience, but I'm always surprised how easily we as societies are able to be turned on our neighbors, you know, being convinced to hate this person or that person because, for example, they wear a religious headscarf, or, you know, they eat a different food, or they speak a language that sounds unusual. You know, I'm always interested in the concept of unity, community, uniting, etc. But isn't it interesting, you know, wouldn't it be better to just unite over a common good rather than uniting against a common enemy? I'm going to time the show, so I'm going to turn on my phone for a moment to make sure I don't talk for too long. But this, you know, this subject is very close to my heart because I came here from the Soviet Union, when it was the Soviet Union, you know, and it's interesting, you know, I was so happy always to have the opportunity to live in a representative democracy. I think this is a wonderful idea, you know, because people think, oh, the Soviet Union, communism, but it did not have communism. It's not communism. Communism is too idealistic, right? It's like, oh, we're going to have a wonderful communal society where everyone cares for each other. This is a wonderful idea, but the thing is, you know, human foibles, right? We don't necessarily naturally do this with each other, and then you have to have enforced community. And then before you know it, you have someone on the top who's telling everyone else they have to get together. And you have, this is what we have. We had authoritarian oligarchy. You know, we didn't even really have socialism, except for certain things like, you know, everyone having their own apartment. Or one thing that I think they actually, in retrospect, it seems to me, they did very well in the Soviet Union, which was education, which I think now it's interesting because when you give people education, which we are supposed to do here in representative democracy, right, in order to practice advanced citizenship, then you're not necessarily susceptible to propaganda in the same way. But I love the idea, you know, to come here with this government that seems to guard against human foibles. And we come together and we fairly agree to participate in a system to govern ourselves with these checks and balances. And I have a wonderful bounty, you know, the little dress shop that my family owns, our little house. It is beautiful. It's more than I ever could dream. It is absolutely more than enough for me. You know, it's like my little heaven. But I see many of my, you know, friends and colleagues who came here who are very, very, very smart, you know, from Russia, you know, who are making so many, they are so smart, they're very successful, and this is wonderful. They are making, you know, millions and billions of dollars. But some of their behavior, I think, is a little strange. It is almost like they are forgetting the thing that made us want to flee from the Soviet Union. You know, if you do something like, for example, if you have a lot of money and you try to buy up all the apartments in a city and then leave them empty in order to drive up prices. So again, you have a few people on the top who have everything and everyone else is struggling. Or if you are going to pay a politician for a vote, for example, if you can do this, I don't understand why I understand why people might want to do this, but I never understand why former Soviet Russians would want to do this, even if you can do this. Why do you want to break this system that you know works and create an atmosphere in which only a few people on the top have power and everyone else is struggling? This is Soviet. I say this is Soviet. This is not American to me. This is not democracy. And I will tell you right now, I said no to the Soviet Union over there, and I say no to it here also. I say no to it here also. And we are seeing also the thing that they tried against, Russians, they used all sorts of tactics, including, weapons and strike to keep Russian people down. It takes a lot to keep them down. And they tried all of this propaganda against us in the Soviet Union, but they made the mistake that they gave us the excellent education. And so we did not necessarily believe the propaganda that they were trying to say. I'm always suspicious if they're saying, oh, this is your enemy. They wear the headscarf. Oh, this is your enemy. They want to come in and take everything from you. I'm always suspicious of this because if you educate people, they get suspicious. Well, they're supposed to get suspicious, but we should be suspicious. Why are you interested in who I hate, right? Why are you telling me to hate this person? What do you have against this person? And you want me to hate them? What benefits you, right? We should be asking ourselves this. And yet it's very interesting because I'm looking again, this propaganda starts to look very similar to the one that used to be used against us. And yet, this suspiciousness, we don't necessarily have a healthy amount of suspicion against this kind of propaganda that's being used. And this makes me a little bit concerned.
Yeah, hello, good evening. So my name is Professor Franz Lederhosen. It's a very good name, but you perhaps recognize me if you're familiar with the shows Fancy Fool with Ananda, whenever you have seen my face. I am sort of the trademark cover girl of the shows, but I am a world-renowned clown psychoanalyst. And if you haven't already checked out my book, so I am the world-renowned psychoanalyst clown who is I invented this very popular method called the reverse Freud. You may have heard of it. So as you know, Freud was very revolutionary. He realized that if you have the patients lie down in your office and they feel very open to communicate their feelings to you, the reverse Freud goes in the opposite direction, in which the therapist lies down in order to really receive what the patient is giving, in order to be able to better provide therapy. If you haven't already checked it out, please do buy my book, Professor Franz Lederhosen, Psychoanalysts and the Role of the Pelvic Floor. But yeah, so I'm here this evening. So I'm here because I am very interested in this concept of propaganda. So I'm going to kind of pick up where last character left off, because as you can hear from my accent, the history of my country, where I came from, has rather a fraught history of the use of propaganda. I'm not sure, this shows that you are watching is a work in progress, obviously. We're so grateful to the Marsh Theater to have us here working on this work in progress. And so it's such a really fraught subject now. And the thing is, the subject of propaganda, the way it's being used, this is a lovely thing. I can time the show. Let's see how we're doing. Oh, we're doing all right. But this is also a very fraught device right now, speaking about democracy, not only American democracy, but democracies all over the world, and the ways that they can survive and thrive, and the use of propaganda, to topple democracies, to get people to hate other people, to get people to become violent against other people, right? And this thing is playing a massive role. And I'm interested, there's a talk back at the end of this thing. I'm interested in hearing your opinion about how we should start to deal with this.
because the subject matter changes so fast that we cannot keep up with the writing of the show. Only this week, we have more whistleblowers coming out, talking about the dangers of artificial intelligence and the fact that artificial intelligence can become more intelligent than human beings, and it can topple democracy very easily. And this is imminent. These are the people who are creating it. And the thing we are all asking ourselves, I think I'm pretty sure everyone in this room is on the page with me. It's right, does it come as such a surprise to you when all of the movies and films tell us that the machines will become intelligent and kill us? They all say, I don't know why they're so shocked. They were just looking at the numbers. They weren't going to the movies. But of course, it's also, the thing is, it's also, I think if you're, perhaps I am not excellent as mathematics. I am about as excellent at mathematics as one might assume a solo theater performer might be. I'm exactly that good at mathematics. But I suppose when you are very good at mathematics, perhaps you lose sight of things that are obvious that you can come up with on your own. For example, if something is programmed through math problems, right? And the math is calculating human behaviors. Of course, it's going to cycle through all of the different possibilities, including the ones that a living person would never do, right? A mathematical algorithm has to learn, for example, why, when it is analyzing the world of human suffering, why the color red is associated with horror. It is going to learn that through trial and error. We already know. We already know why red and suffering and pain are associated. And we already know that that is a cluster of things that we are never going to try unless we are total psychopaths, right? We're never going to witness another something. But most of us who are human beings, the full extent of the world, are never going to try some of those things. And so that's why, as we are in this moment of having all of this AI come in with this propaganda, that is, again, as the person before me was saying, a few people control these things, and they're going to implement it on a large group of people in order to try to have that old paradigm of a few people having power, which they want somehow. My eyes bulge when you say power, your eyes bulge, right? That kind of thing. They want power for some reason over many people. They're going to try this. And yet it's wonderful. When we think about, I was listening to this last performer who was so eloquent about intention and the way the brain of a person who does meditation is different. And the way the dog, which I did not know, could synchronize the heartbeats with the owner. I do know that when we are in a theater space like this, and it becomes magical, and we feel that magic that happens in the theater, science tells us that our heartbeats synchronize, and that is what that feeling is. Mm-hmm. So it's wonderful in a sense, because all we really have to do to combat this giant menace is to, except for timing the show, which I will check again, still okay, is to just put this down and be here. We can solve this by being here. We can solve this by connecting and actually gathering. Can we not? Feeling each other's presence, right? And developing and enriching ourselves in this moment, and enriching also, as she eloquently said, our attention, right? Having an attention span that can last through a whole novel is going to also give us a wonderful fulfillment in our lives, and also a tool to use against this weather. And so somehow, I don't know what the most poignant discussion is around this, and yet somehow we need to remember physically
spiritually, actually now, that we are the people to feel ourselves to be the people, to come together as the people, and to feel how much greater this cosmos of a person, of a citizen is. This. And when two come together, this is not just doubled, this is exponentially more. And each time we make these connections with each other, we become exponentially more than what we were before. And we have to keep the hope and keep the knowledge of how powerful these connections between us really are. It is who we are.
So, on those lines, yes, hello. So I'm also a character who's very often seen in the fanciful sort of, canon, if you will, of shows. And my name is Delia. And I have a show. It's an online show on the internet about the theatre. And I also have a blog, DeliaPresents.blogspot.com. So I'm talking about all things. Oh, sorry. I knocked the glass off. I talk about, the theatre and Shakespeare, mostly, and poetry, philosophy, because these things make us feel that we are part of a larger conversation through the ages. The magical things where we use our imagination and we feel the potential for what we really are as beings, and we get filled with the magic of that and the joys of the natural world and being alive, and so I think it's very, very important that we remember about these things now, because particularly, on these same lines, this very difficult conversation around, the use of the phones, social media, propaganda, all of these things that are thought of ubiquitous in our society, and now this AI thing that seems to be coming in, one thing that we need to turn our attention now as all of these things are happening is how our young people are dealing with this. The people who were born into a world where this is fact, who don't remember a time before this was here. Still useful for timing the show, though. Yes. But yes, not bad. It's also how, because when we talk about young people, education, they're having this is a tool, I use it for all kinds of things. Research this show using this quite a lot, to have to say, right? Google Scholar, for example, amazing thing, right? I watched Noam Chomsky debate Michel Foucault. You can see films of every American president who was ever on film, you can watch all kinds of stuff if you know what you're looking for, but if you're not prepared, and to go in there, right, and you're just susceptible to all the addictive stuff, we can get taken away. And especially if we have no memory that predates this, and we see it from when we're very tiny. For example, I was on public transportation and I saw a very tiny baby, couldn't have been even a year old, holding one of these things, scrolling. Well, it's funny and it's not, right? The implications for what that tiny person's attention span is going to develop into gives us pause. Also, we're looking at some percentages here. There's a large number of children entering kindergarten who don't have the manual dexterity to pick up a pencil. Did you know that? Mm-hmm. They don't have the attention span to pay attention to their teachers. I know this from experience, going on the teaching for a rather long time. Won't tell you how long, right? But when, now sometimes I feel like I'm quite rude. I don't know what else to do. If I'm teaching a young person who's 7 years old, for example, I very often have to actually wave in their face in order to get them to pay attention to me. Now, 20 years ago, I'm showing my age a bit, but 20 years ago, I didn't have to do that. You know, this is sort of a new thing. And the most extraordinary thing to me, the most poignant thing to me, is the way the numbers are going up in terms of anxiety and depression, and also contemplating taking one's own life amongst people who are extremely young, people who haven't even reached the double digits in age, right? And this, there is a direct correlation between this and these things like social media, you know? And so I don't though want us, we're going to end on this note, but I don't want us to end on a really sad note. It's really hard. So in the top left, please tell me in the top left, how do we keep this show? These shows are supposed to be funny, hence the glasses. But we started a show on democracy, you know, and multiculturalism. And like, gosh, there's a lot of depressing stuff going on. How do we bring it back? So finally, how do we bring it? I have no idea. But I don't know how we can bring it back to being positive. And that is remembering the thing that the character before me said, that we here, our physical presence together has an energy. There's a tension, just like this wonderful woman said, this is powerful. And when we come together as people, this is when magic happens. This is when societies make good choices, right? For example, democratic, you know, a democratic republic with the capitalist free market. I think that's a very good idea. You know, if we come together and agree to do that, I think that was a great idea, and it can be again. You know, magical ideas like this happen when we come together. And remember, Einstein also said that imagination is more important than knowledge. So if we come together and we decide, let's imagine what we want. Let's imagine that we beat our swords into plowshares and take all the money they use for weapons and put it towards environmental technology, right? And education for our young people, right? So we see a world full of wonderful flowers where no one hates us. And then we can walk out our door in the morning and feel more confident saying, hello, how are you today to our neighbors? And experience loving our neighbors and feeling ourselves to be together as one, e pluribus unum, from the many one. That's the national credo. It's on all your money. Go and take a look. It's a very tiny. You probably need a magnifying glass, but it's on there, right? So carry cash, not to spend, but just so you've got a tidbit of philosophy in your pocket, right? But let's do this. Let's think about this. And it's so beautiful to be here at the places like the Marsh Theatre where we can be live. So we can have this feeling that we are together. And this is how we're going to make a good world again. Thank you.
And thank you very much to the Marsh Theatre. Fantastic theater dedicated to solo work. So grateful for the Marsh Theater. It's my favorite place. Come see everything at the Marsh. Thank you so much.
I can't break into that song. How to get better Weber and their cast of characters. All right, but we are not done. We have a third performance this evening. And our third and final piece is the Jen Bosworth Ramirez comedy special. After years of being told she was funny and should have her own comedy special, Jen finally has one. This is a story about the brutal beauty and weirdness of life. And now Jen Bosworth Ramirez.
Hello, no one is available to take your call. Please leave a message after the tone.
Okay, so like Chris Rock has that like subtle hip hop going at the beginning, and they like house in the house, like that's I mean something like that, but like maybe a little like Please welcome to the stage Jen Bosworth Ramirez in the Jen Bosworth Ramirez comedy special. A solo show.
On a very long
Okay, that's right. Please welcome to the stage Jen Bosworth Ramirez in the Netflix Comedy Hour, a 20-minute version. I like that one too. Or like something like that, like San Francisco. Please welcome to the stage the please, oh my God, I'm high on Theraflu. San Francisco, and now San Francisco, please welcome to the stage Jen Bosworth Ramirez in the Jen Bosworth Ramirez comedy special, a solo show, 20 minutes, a workshop production, that sort of thing. You know what I'm saying? Oh my God, I have to lay down.
Wow, we made it. Okay. I'd like to say that this is okay, where to begin? I have an opportunity to get my tape to a person at Netflix. So what that means is I know someone in human resources who's like ex works at Netflix. His name is Brett. He's a big thing. So the deal is they're going to get my tape to this guy at Netflix, but I have to be like in a theater doing a comedy special so that Brett thinks that I'm a stand-up comedian and I get my own comedy special, because people are always telling me, you're so funny, you need to have a comedy special. And I'm like, but you fucking can't just do a comedy special in your car. But Jerry Seinfeld actually has a show called In Cars with Comedians. So you can't, you just have to be Jerry Seinfeld. I am not Jerry Seinfeld. So I was like, okay, well, fucking A, how do I do this? And I'm like, oh, perfect. We just start performing places where they give me time, and then we'll like edit and post, and it will look like there's so many people. That's why when I came out, we're gonna edit this. My friend Talia is taping. We're gonna edit in. Is it working out? Yeah. Great. So we'll edit and post, but like that's why when I came out, I was like up here as if there's like tons of people. So that's what you see me doing, and that's so I'm gonna like we'll edit it in post. But there, so here we are. I also just want to say before I go into my set. Okay, first of all, thank you for laughing. Second of all, I want to say that I have totally curated my outfit, and I will tell you how. No one will know this. Brett will not know this, but it will subtly get into his little like white man brain, and he will be like, "Oh my God, she's a genius," because I have Gucci shoes on, no big deal, and then I have socks from Aldi and an Aldi water cup. So what that messaging is like she's a high-low. So like she's got high taste, but she knows how to be cute, but she's of the people, and she goes to Aldi and she has Aldi socks, and this is the way my brain works. Which is probably why I'm unemployed. Okay, so here we go. Okay, Talia, I'm gonna start now. Okay. Thank you so much. So wonderful. Moms, am I right? Moms, right? Oh my God, my mom. I love my mom. She's very scary, but I love my mom. And the thing about my mom is, well, one, she can be awful, but two, she has this way, she's an immigrant from Colombia, and she has this way of like doing two things at once, which is making you feel terrible and also making you feel like you're the only one that can get the job done. And so for me is, I'd be like, you know, hey mom, I can beat on my that science project, and she'd be like, Abby, next time you go in there, that fucking science fair, and you tell them that you're gonna run the whole goddamn son of a bitch show. And if they don't like it, they can kiss your fat ass. So like, that's good in a way, like, you're like, yes, I'm awesome. And then it's sort of like, she just insulted my body in a real, you know, it's second grade, it's like a real confusing, right? So moms, am I right? Moms, am I right? So, okay, so I tell the story to my therapist the other day, and I just would like to tell you, because I think maybe you'd be able to relate. Okay, so I was a latchkey kid. Raise your hand, any other latchkey kids? It doesn't matter, I can't see shit. But comedians do that, right? We'll cut it in post. Yeah. Okay, great. So, latchkey kid, great. Latchkey kid all the way. And what that meant with my mom, the angry Colombian immigrant trying desperately to fit in, and she earned all the money in our house, and it meant that, you know, it was the 80s, so she wore like huge shoulder pads, right? And also her eyebrows. Like, can I explain this? My eyebrows are like force of wonder. You've got the fucking Taj Mahal, you got, what is it, Dodger Stadium, I don't know, and then you've got my mom's eyebrows as done like, right? So she did this thing in the 60s where she shaved off half of them at the peak, so they looked like mine a little bit. And then she decided this part had to go. I don't know why, but that was her thing, right? So she shaved those parts off. And then she drew the breast on because it stopped growing back. Like, note to people, like, you lived in the aughts, you already know this, like me, but like, it doesn't grow back. So don't do that unless you want to do this, which is draw on with a Maybelline black crayon. That is, it always looks like this, like always. She's angry or surprised, but it gets worse because when she takes off the half, she looks like an angry emoji all the time. So you've got two choices with my mom, angry emoji, and this was before emojis, but still angry emoji, or just like scary Machu Picchu point of Peru mountain eyebrows. Okay, fine. So she's angry and she's like, here's your key. Don't you lose this key. If you fucking lose the key, I will murder you. And I'm like, oh fuck. Or, you know, that's bad, but what was worse was like, I will humiliate you, right? Like, that is the real kicker. Okay, don't want to lose the key, don't want to lose the key. What happens when I'm 11, 7th grade, 6th grade? I don't know, maybe I flunked 7th, I don't know what grade I was in. But I lost the motherfucking key, of course. I get home from school and I'm like, oh no. But then I'm like, no. I got real good at doing stuff like, you know, pretending, you know, that things were okay when they weren't. So what I did was like, oh, this. What I'll do is I will just hang around for 3 hours and I will see my mom's, you know, like Chevy Malibu station wagon pull up, and I will pretend that I was out walking in the neighborhood, and then I will be like a newsie from, you know, 1902. And I will be like, hey mom, just getting home, are you? I'm just getting home too. Like your shoulder pads, let's go inside. You can make some terrible food for us. But that was my plan. And that was going well until I realized it's a cuckoo. Really bad. You know what happened to me? It's probably because I ate, you know, like they fed us literally every day. My mom would make me a lunch of Carl Budding's beef bags, which is not real beef, or budding beef, the whole package, which was 25 slices of like 9,000 milligrams of sodium per sheet of whatever that was, a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos, and a fucking Hostess cupcake light. Light, San Francisco, light, because we need a whole, which Olestra, which made people leak out of their asshole. Okay, just putting it out there, that's a fact. The character, but you know, before me, that German character will tell you it's a fucking fact. Olestra made you like leak out of your ass. Okay, so I had to poop, and I had to poop badly. And I was like, no problem. I won't go to the neighbors, because when you are an overweight kid, you hate your body. And so the last thing you want to do is take a giant shit in your neighbor Dan's ranch house where the smell will overpower the poor dude and he will die, or worse, he will humiliate you, right? And then we had like a religious Orthodox cult going on the other side of our house, and I didn't want to do there because I didn't know what their rules are. Or I didn't know. What is a pooping rule over there? So what I did was like, no problem. I grew up watching America's Most Wanted. And what was the other one I loved? What was that show? America's Most Wanted. There was like a missing show, Homicide, Life on the Streets. That was it with Andre Brower. Still love that show. And I was like, no, I'm breaking my own house. Fuck this. So I go to the side, to this old ass house. Why do old ass houses have like 8 windows? What do you need? A storm window, a pre-storm window, an old ass piece of shit window that you have to like, you know, like old paint peeling. I'm like, no, but that's okay. I'm gonna break it. So I do really stealth. Do that. And I was like, never, I'm not. The noise was stupendous. And I was like, this is a terrible idea. So I've got a broken window and I'm like, I can't do it. I can't, that was only window 1 of 8, right? Like what's a woman to do? So I do the next logical thing. I'm like, I will take a shit in my backyard. I will do it. I will shit in my backyard. Looked around. Where, okay, well, the dog goes here. Maybe I'll just do that. And it was fall, you know, leaves. So I was like, I will do that. So I literally crouched down instead of going to Dan, the hunchback dude that lived one side and the religious cult. I shit in my backyard. Now, what I did not know was that like all the houses around us were bigger. And so like, if you looked from anyone's window, you will see an overweight 11-year-old taking a dump in a suburban backyard. For what reason? I mean, but I wasn't thinking like that. My mother was more scary, right? So that's what I did. So I did my business. I'm not going to get into that. Reddit, Netflix. You're not going to hear my shit story yet. For $1 million, maybe. Okay. Then I do my business. My mom comes home, shoulder pads, eyebrows, the whole bit. I'm like, hey mom, like probably shitty ass. I'm like, let's go. I gotta take a shower. I'm like, I've been exercising. You know, you're always telling me to exercise, lose weight. I was running around the neighborhood. Upstairs, so all is good. I'm upstairs, probably writing terrible poetry. And I really the other day found a poem that was like, it was called It's the Little Cuts That Kill You. It's so pathetic. I know it's sad, but it's also really bad. Anyway, so I doing, but I was writing this poetry and all of a sudden I think I'm in the clear, right? Nobody knows. I took a shit, I buried it with leaves, all good. Blame it on the dog. Who cares? All of a sudden I hear, son of a bitch! Somebody tried to break in this motherfucking house. Call the police. I was like, oh no. My mom had found the window as she was doing laundry and discovered that it was broken and called the police. And I was like, I'm gonna die. I will die tonight. I will die. I'm going to die. So what do? And then, you know, as you do, you know, you just sort of disassociate and you're like, I'm gonna just do something else in my brain. But I think I'm probably standing there like this. And the police motherfucking came because it's the suburbs, okay? And they have nothing else to do. So the police come. And my mother is like, we were broken into, and that window was not broken yesterday. And he's like, ma'am, there's like 8 windows here. No one's getting. She's like, no, what I want you to do is fingerprint it, find fingerprints, and then you'll match them with the family. And if no one matches, you know it was a burglar. But I bet one of these motherfuckers did it. But meaning me, my dad, or my sister. Yes, it works. That night, he's like, ma'am, I have to go now. I will be back tomorrow with my evidence technician. I'm like, okay. So I set my alarm for 3 o'clock in the morning. The alarm goes off. I go downstairs with gloves on, pull out all the glass, and walk 3 blocks down in the dark, in an alley, and put the glass fragments in a neighbor's bin to hide the evidence. And I tell my therapist this story, and I'm like, oh, Bonnie, this is what I did in my show. And I look over and Vivian, my therapist, is just crying. Vivian, what's going on? She's like, that is legit the most sad thing I've ever heard. I was like, what? It's funny, like I just did in the yard, and I lost my, just because I lost my key. And as I'm saying it, I'm like, oh my God. Oh my. What are you doing? That's not funny at all. That's horrible. I was such a scared kid. And then I'm crying and Vivian's crying. And I'm like, my childhood was awful. I'll tell you, this cannot go in special. Like Brett and Netflix is gonna be like, what the fuck? I think they still have remotes. What the fuck? That's what. This can't go. We'll have, this can't go. Here's the thing. Okay, so it is sad. It is sad, and we can't. Like the last person said, like, we can't leave you on a sad note. Well, it probably will just be sad, but I will say this. I will say this. It's just gonna get actually more sad. But for a second, my mother is dead. Oh, I know, like what? But here's the thing. Here's the thing. And this may or may not be funny, and we may or may not keep it in. But like, so as she died, I took care of her. She was very mean in her life. But and when she got sick, she got very nice, very weird thing. And I've been bringing it back to poop, which I know is disgusting. It's like I changed her diaper as she died. I let her poop. I didn't give a fuck. Also, this is a very sad moment to leave this on. I don't know what to tell you guys, except that sometimes the things that we think are like super funny are like the most tragic. And that is like not great wisdom, but it's the truth. And I always feel like comedy stuff and with solo performance, like the truth is pretty much the better bet. And also, fuck it. We can fix it in post. You have to turn that one off, Sam. Come back out here?
Yeah, you should leave for a second and then come back, because I'm gonna say your name again and we can take one more bob.
Okay, we're gonna do like a thing.
Just slightly off.
Okay, all right, like, how far?
Stop. Wasn't she great, Jen?
Think that I'm not fucking having you in the tape to Brett at Netflix. Watch his ass get famous and not me. Anyway. Oh,
Let's have our.
I don't know. I want everyone else to come.
This is scary as business. I just want to say, Sam here is filling in for our regular tech. And normally we just put schools on stage.
I know.
But Sam.
No, I don't try to Star Trek.
Okay. Comfy chair, thank you, Sam. There we go. Now we've all through here. So folks, take a second to collect your thoughts. We've been depressed. It's tonight.
Wow.
For scatological stories that's going around the world. You must have a lot of your own.
Oh.
Who's got the first question? It always takes a minute for somebody to break the ice. Yeah, in the back.
I'm curious how long it takes each of you to prepare your material.
About 47 years. Like this piece. Oh, Joan, that's like a tricky question. Like 3 months? I don't know. But I think some people improv, like some of this was improv, right? So like I'll have like like, hope to God this works, kind of outline, and then just sort of see where we're at. But then when I'm in performance of a solo piece, this will be my third solo show, so when I'm in performance, then it becomes, you have to stick to the script or like your SM will kill you, because you can't just be like, ah. So, yeah, but yeah, 3 months. Fellow humans.
For you in progress, I don't know, the subject matter was, asked of me for another, venue. So, I would say, yeah, maybe like 4 months, maybe, because I had a deadline. So, and then I had to, then I reworked it for this, so, I don't know about that.
It takes me a different amount of time depending on what I'm working on. One of the things that like I offer venues is if they want to choose a subject matter and give me 4 weeks, I'll produce a half-hour show on the subject for them. I do that a lot of time for schools. But for this show, I'm workshopping it here. I'm doing a residency here at the Marsh. So I did. I'm starting with the Monday nights. So I did 2 Monday nights last month with a different 20 minutes, sort of improvised material on talking points, with some dancing because it's all interdisciplinary stuff. Then this month I'm doing another different 20 minutes. I'll probably do this once or twice more, and then take all the little 20-minute segments and put them together. And that's how we're doing it this time. And then hopefully we'll do a little run of it next year sometime. But that's actually the first time I've ever done it like that. So I'm really excited about being here and working on it at the Marsh. It's an awesome environment.
I legit thought your Russian accent was real.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Where did your accent come from? Like, do you coach or how do you get the country?
Well, I speak Russian a little bit. I studied Russian, and I studied in Russia. But my accents come from all over. I don't usually work with a coach. I listen to different people talking, and since most of my stuff is based on, it's inspired by people I've talked to on the streets. If I don't already have their accents, I try to go out and get it most of the time by like asking people I know to be like, okay, can you say these things looking straight ahead? And I'm gonna go. They look straight ahead and I look straight ahead right next to them, and like I hear it like this, it like enters my body. So I'm gonna have to do that. I want to do a portrait of a Chinese American, and I don't have that accent, so that's gonna be a huge research. I might, for this show also, I might try doing some things. I'm thinking about doing some things in Spanish, in Russian, and in Chinese, if I can get a person, because I only want it to be, I want a person to be like, okay, you remind me of my grandmother, and then I'm like, I'm signed off on, I can do that character. So this is gonna be, if I do try to do those, that'll be the biggest challenge of my life so far.
Sorry.
I think everybody wants to know where they did coach anyway.
So the thing about, yes, the answer is yes. Yeah, I mean, most of my stuff is really real. Yeah, that actually, yeah, that unfortunately did happen. And I have to say, it was probably not the only time.
Who else?
Did you poop? Yes.
Where is all the anxiety coming from?
No wonder.
The anxiety? What do you mean? Say more, Joan. That's my friend Joan.
Very anxious performers with some anxiety or worries about anxiety.
Well, I feel like the country is really fucked. And so I feel like the world is like, we're in trouble. And so I feel like on some level that comes into, at least for me. And also, like, I think being anxious gives other people permission to be anxious. And I think at our core, we're all pretty anxious. I've never met someone who doesn't have like an anxious heart. I never. And I also, yeah, once the Dalai Lama, they asked him, no problematic figure right this moment, but they said, like, are you ever anxious? And he said all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's everything all the time, like, it moves, he just, so the difference is that for me, it doesn't stay. It like goes. So I feel like as long as we're moving it. I think it's part of the deal.
That's good to ask because I was hoping that, see the character is anxious, but that she's offering some kind of way through it. I mean, obviously I suffered through COVID, so, but I'm fine, I'm here. So that's also, so I don't know. But certainly certainly there's plenty to make us anxious about the world.
Also, it's terrifying to be a performer. Like you just did.
I was gonna ask you, did you have COVID or do you have COVID? Is that where a lot of this came from? Or is it just?
I would never know what I had. All I know is I was very sick.
So this
yeah.
did come out of.
Yes, it did come out because
Personal
the
experience.
task that I was given was a life under COVID. And all I did was being sick and survive, luckily survived, and hopefully now thrive. So yeah, it started with that, but I didn't want to, I don't want to I really didn't want to talk about that. And I did a lot of, it's true that I did lots of research about the brain. I love doing research about the brain. So that was my way to put it together. All the facts are true according at least to the research I read.
Amanda, I think you didn't have a chance to answer.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think I agree that, finding a way through the anxieties that we have to do and then doing it together is really powerful. My opinion is that we are all anxious and that this is being done deliberately now. And we can, it's, the reason I think theater is something that's really like cutting edge is because the people who are using, who are in charge of technology we see on our phone, technologies we see on our computers, and also television programming, they're using theatrical devices and they're also using psychology, and you can learn what they're doing, right? And it's something like get people scared, show them a color, tell them a slogan, point at an enemy. And we can be programmed kind of like machines like that, right? But the great news is, if we know that that's what's happening, we are alive, we have volition, we can be like, no, this is bullshit. And then we can also have a demand, like, no, in order to consume this, I need you to make better theater. I want you to make more sophisticated stuff. I want you to be more eloquent. I don't want a 7-second soundbite. I want a beautiful epic poem, and I want you to recite it with beautiful gestures from a gorgeous canvas. You know what I mean? Like we can turn it around and be like, no, I'm sorry, thank you, I'm not consuming. And I think it's really powerful. It's in a sense, it's that easy.
More questions? Yes, please.
Just a compliment. When you go into your characters, you totally lose yourself in them. It's really your degree of professionalism in your characters is really amazing.
Remember you guys last time.
Your piece was really moving, and you had asked a question. I don't know how much you were asking us and how much you were asking aloud in it as a character, but about how to make it possible, how to
I'm
bring
asking
it
for
up.
sure.
And I found your anti-Freud character to be, I just figured, it's funny, suddenly your face starts transforming into that actual nose and a little mustache underneath, and when he encapsulates it all at the end with that connection of it, like that was the moment. And so she was delightful at the end, but she almost felt like, no, I want that feeling. I want that psychoanalyst.
You feel like that's the closer? Great.
That was that, and I think you could bring her in between.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'll try that next time. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, it was just really, it was a great feeling. Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
And I wanna know also, can I have a?
Yeah.
Okay. So I also wanna know, like, what did your mom find out about the what happened next?
I think that I never confessed, but I think that she realized on some level, she was like a monster. I think she realized on some level to let it go.
Uh-huh.
And I bet you my dad had said something like, this is crazy. You know, like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And maybe somewhere in her marrow, she was like, maybe I shouldn't care this much about a window and why are people, you know, like, what is happening? I don't know, that's maybe wishful thinking, but I think that's part of it. But I bet you my dad was like, listen, maybe.
Plus she heard you go out at night and take the.
No one
I'm
did.
just kidding. Yeah. Okay, and then C.
Oh.
Okay, and then C is, how do you know where that line is? Like, how do you know when you're at the therapist and the therapist is crying and you're like, I thought that was really funny, and like, you're here, right? You're up
Yeah.
above it all. And then when you sink down into it and you're like, oh
It's
shit.
because it's the truth, right? So the truth for me is the thing that will always, always, of a moment, will always, always let me know that it's time to do that. Because it's like so funny and great, but the truth is, it's really sad.
Mhm.
And Vivian saw it, so you can feel it. I could feel it. It's like, oh yeah, well, this is so, but wait a second, that's not the truth of the whole story.
Right.
I'm not telling them the whole story. And so my kind of solo work is like, tell the whole story. And the comedy is just a device to get there, really, right?
Yeah.
For me. But yeah, you can feel it. Because if you just stay there,
Yeah, no,
then
totally.
it's a story about pooping, which is
Right.
great and funny and oh, how witty. But then it's like, but maybe some people in the audience are going to go, actually, that's fucked up and sad. And she can acknowledge that, like, why she's so scared of her own mother, you know.
So what happens next then? Like, if that's where it is, where does it go next?
I think I don't know, but I'm gonna be here in 2 weeks. I have to figure it out. But I don't know, but I think it's more like that the protagonist, so the stand-up or whatever version of me is like, no, dad. And so then I turn to my dad, I'm like, this is a funny story. And then the truth is my dad died too. So that's in real life. So then it's like, oh, wait. So I think that's what's gonna keep happening to this stand-up until at the end, my vision is that she's literally like tied in a mic cord and like on the floor, like, or like somehow like everything is hard, but we're gonna be okay, kind of a thing. Which is always the truth, sort of how I think of it. But yeah, I think I'll be back in 2 weeks.
Just take one pause from the audience. We'll get back to you. We have some questions.
I have a simple question.
Oh.
And this question is, did the COVID lockdown dim your light or push you or urge you to blink?
For everybody.
Yeah, I'm not directed for them. Did it dim your light or encourage you?
Anybody can go first.
I mean, it's like a really deep question. It really is. Go ahead.
Thanks, Kat, for summing
Thank you, Kat. I know who that is. Hey, Kat.
Oh. I'm not sure what
Okay, you
to
want to
say.
take start since
Well,
or
Yeah, it was when it was COVID, well, what to say, when I was going through it, it certainly dimmed my light a big time. So I think now looking back, I just feel like I learned a lot. Because I really had to rewire a lot of things in my brain. Or how I was looking at things. So, but when I was in it, no, now, yes. So this would be my answer.
Rhonda?
Yeah, I mean, we all went through COVID and we were quarantining and cleaning off the newspaper at first. And realizing that. But ultimately, I was so heartened by people's reaction to COVID, because I felt like in general, before COVID, because I was making theater about these subjects that I'm talking about tonight before. And I felt like we were all so busy and just preoccupied and just doing our thing and kind of barreling down the hill. You know, we're just like, I can't, I'm too busy, I'm too busy. And COVID, people stopped, and so many people started saying, I don't want to do this. I don't want to work all the time and not live my life. I want to live my life. People missed other people. They missed going to restaurants and being with other people. They missed coming out to see live shows. They felt a lack of others. They weren't aware of how much other people, even strangers in gatherings, meant to them until they were isolated. And I thought, I'm sorry it took the pandemic, but I'm so happy that people were talking like that, because it gives me a tremendous amount of hope for what we'll be able to do now.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I felt like COVID was a slow moving collective trauma that is still going on, and that I did become acutely aware of legacy and what I wanted my legacy to be on the planet if I don't have children. So I think the light is now, I feel like it's shined a light on my intention in the world. That's what I was saying.
Thank you. Sorry, you had in the front row? Yeah.
Yeah, so I was wondering. Hey, I last saw you, I think, 25 years ago. Long time.
I know. I'm just trying to, can it be that old?
No, yeah.
Okay, keep going.
20. Somewhere. Anyway, we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, I forget your name.
My name,
Yeah,
Katrine.
Katrine. I guess maybe a comment, maybe there's a question, but I love the way that you use like your physical movement in particular to like illustrate the way the brain works.
Oh, okay.
And I was very touched by that movement. And there's something about, there was something that like I sort of wanted, you did a lot of movement in your piece, and there was something like I wanted even more. And there was something that got really fluid around the neuroplasticity. And something in that, even when you were doing it, kind of gave that sense of attunement you talked about at the end. And so just sort of curious about, I felt like there was maybe more movement in your piece that was around anxiety and that piece. And so there's something in it that like I wanted a little bit more of the fluid in there too. So there's some kind of comment about that, but I really just love the way you move through space.
Oh, thank you. And if I understand you, you're saying you would want to see more movement.
The fluid movement.
The fluid versus like the one which is like always like.
Plus, and you were
Right.
and the other was more like
Right, so to balance it out.
yeah,
Got
like
it,
the
okay.
more of that.
Fluid, you're right, that would give you a break too.
Yeah, and there was just something that was really important to have the
Makes sense.
like staccato, right?
Right,
But
right,
there
the other
was
part, yeah.
just something that yeah, I just wanted more.
Thank
little
you,
bit more,
yeah,
sorry.
thank you. Mhm.
All right, yeah, I got one last Zoom question. Oh, no, I lost it.
Oh,
It's there. It's
Oh.
back. This is from Lisa.
And they're asking, they asked if you feel anxiety as a performer, which is kind of an obvious yes, but how do you channel that? What are your practices for kind of grouping that together and turning it into a wonderful performance?
Oh, that was nice.
So for all three?
You know what, whoever wants to take it.
Have at it. I
I'm
think we
sure
all
it
have
must be
practice,
good.
I don't know.
I mean, I just feel like it's okay to fail. For me, it's like, look, dude, it's like, it's so hard to live, like, it's okay to fail, like, I tell youngsters that I usually audition with youngsters that are like 13, and I'm usually playing their like angry alcoholic mom on television. And they audition, they're like this, and I say, listen to me. We are not gonna die in there. We're gonna die one day. That's another Oprah. But we are not gonna die in this room. So like, we're gonna be okay. So I think for me, anxiety, connection is the anxiety subduer. Connection with someone else that's, or something else that's real.
That's.
For me.
Either of you two want to take a crack?
I in general, dedicate my performances. First I'm trying to breathe, but then I dedicate my performances, and this one I in my mind, it's a kind of a Buddhist theme. So, you know, I hope it's going to serve at least some human beings. And then in general, I dedicate it to my ancestors.
I do later voice work, which comes with the deep relaxation and breath work for classical actors, and I do a classical ballet bar beforehand. But I have to say that there's a certain aspect, I think, of being a person who's a performer a lot. I think some of us who are gravitating toward that are somehow more comfortable up here, and the anxiety that we have is more one-on-one conversations. And I'm one of those people, because people don't suspend disbelief one-on-one the way they do when you put them in the dark, and it feels like, okay, entertain me, you know, they're willing to receive a lot that in a social conversation is a little bit more fraught.
So the last thing before we go here, unless somebody's dying to ask one more question, I'll just ask each of the performers to say, speaking of that little device, and I know that you held in your hand, how can people get a hold of you? Whether it's social media, whether it's postal mail, whether it's all three of you, how can you be found? Your work.
Please send me postal mail. I love that, you better. Find me on my, at my website, jenbosworthramirez.com, or at Miss Jen Bosworth Ramirez on one of those things.
I have one of those things too, a webpage. My name, CatherineDevon.com.
Okay.
I have a fancyfool.com. It's like fanciful, but fool because clown, and also anondabenaweb.com.
Thanks, Tracy, for performing, and come back again.
I'm gonna get my mask.
Oh, yeah, my mask, I just totally lost it. Go and get my mask, I'm gonna give you a hug.